You're welcome back. Now, you've probably heard about this, but if you haven't, this will fascinate you. Africa's Center for Security and Intelligence Studies is warning that there could be a possible attack on churches here in Ghana. Now, ACSIS is monitoring, and they've indicated that the activities of the Salafi jihadists, this is a group in Burkina Faso, they have now shifted their attention to Christian churches. And on the 20th of April, of course, they conducted their first attack on a church in Burkina Faso. We all heard about it in the news. And today we want to understand how Ghana, as a nation, can be mindful of this and protect itself, its citizens, its churchgoers, and all other members of society from any such eventuality. And I've got the best person possible to help us understand the way forward with this, okay? We'll be speaking to the General Secretary, former General Secretary of the Christian Council, Dr. Kwabena Opunifrimpong. He's right here with me. Very honored to have him. Good morning, sir. It's great to see you.
Great.
Now, before we get into this, there are some statistics, some details from the UN. Let's just observe what they've been saying about this situation before we get into the conversation.
Secretary General strongly condemns this morning's attack on a Catholic church during Mass in the village of Dablo in the center-north region of Burkina Faso. He expresses his deepest condolences to the families of the victims and wishes a speedy recovery to the injured. He recalls the sanctity of all places of worship and hopes the perpetrators can be swiftly brought to justice. The Secretary General conveys the solidarity of the United Nations to the government and people of Burkina Faso in this difficult moment for the nation. He urges all citizens of Burkina Faso to stand firmly with one another across communities and not to succumb to efforts to sow discord and breed further violence. The UN stands ready to assist in any way it can.
Right, so let's get to it. Now, I introduced you to Dr. Opunifrimpong. Of course, he's currently a lecturer at KNUST with the Department of Religious Studies. And, Doc, this is a worrying trend. The last thing any Ghanaian wants is to see posts on Facebook, we stand with Ghana, we stand with Ghana. I think Ghana should stand up and defend itself from such an eventuality. Churches have been named as a potential target. What's your thinking here? I mean, is there anything at all churches themselves can do to ensure that this does not become their fate?
Kwaju, thanks for the opportunity. And let me say good morning to your cherished viewers who have allowed us to enter into their bedrooms and their halls. Now, Ghana, as at now, we have not had the experience that some of our friends in Kenya, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, elsewhere in Sri Lanka, they have had. But it seems to me we can also put our house in order. We pray that such things don't happen. But in the Bible also, it is said we should pray and watch. So we will put our faith in God, we will trust God. But the watching side, the planning side, getting ourselves ready, having the right information side, must also be done. Now, let me draw some lessons from the Ebola outbreak, even though that they are different in terms of intensity of attack. But Ghana did not have Ebola. But Ebola was around us. Almost all the dear nations around us, Nigeria, still Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, the nations around were... that time we raised this question, that what do we do so that we don't wait till it happens to us? Thank God the then government put some ministerial committee in place. We had opportunity to engage them. Some church leaders and others were sent outside the country. For myself, I had opportunity to be in World Council of Churches program, getting us ready the insight about Ebola and the role that church leaders and other community leaders can play. And I will go the same path, that we don't have it. We pray we don't have it, but we should get ourselves ready. And that is the time we must have the right information. We don't need to raise an atmosphere that people are panic, anxious, and giving unnecessary alarm, But we must be well armed with information. And in this instance, the churches may know the Bible, but may not know the inside, security inside, the right things to do, what you look up for. And therefore, I will expect that quickly there must be some interfaith, not even church leaders, but school leaders, because elsewhere they are attacking academic institutions. They are attacking Burkina Faso. They attack even nearby household. You know, elsewhere they are attacking hotels. So the information about what do we do must be a household thing that anybody, everybody, especially those who bring people together, who rally people together, must have that tidbit. And I pray and hope that somebody quickly will respond to what is happening in Burkina Faso with a pragmatic educational program, not to make us military people, but basic thing to know that when you are in a crowd, when you are in a community, what do you look for? How do you interpret what you see, and how do you position yourself? I mean, just to distance yourself from harm.
Now, who should do this? Should it be the church themselves, government? I mean, who should take up the responsibility of ensuring that such information and education and training is made available?
I think it's a collective responsibility. Maybe who should take the first step is the question you ask. You see, anybody who bring people together, like church people, must accept responsibility of their safety. So if you are a church person, if you are an academic manager, head of institution, if you are entertainment person who bring people for fun games, whatever, it is your responsibility to ensure that the people you have gathered will go home safe and sound. So the church leaders must answer the question you have just asked, that they must feel responsible, you know. And then, of course, our national leaders, now that we are all hearing this and we see evidence, it happened just last Sunday again during Mass. So while the church leaders must show some interest in the security of their church members, I pray and hope that the various national security, Minister of Interior, the Chief of Defense Staff of Ghana, Armed Forces, the IGP, must come together and then tell us who should take the first step. Whether it should come from Interior, this is technical area I don't understand. But I know that the church people must be interested. But who should call the meeting is what I cannot answer. But there must be series of meetings going on, even including media houses.
You know, it's great that you raised the Ebola example for comparison, because we all remember how it unfolded with Ebola. It was happening in the countries around us. We kept asking our leaders, so what's our plan? Hospitals, doctors were terrified. You know, there were doctors speaking out in the media that if an Ebola case shows up in their hospital, they will run. You know, so there was a certain lack of knowledge, preparedness, equipment, logistics on the front line of those who were expected to encounter the menace first. Now, in this case, we're getting these warnings about churches, and of course, you've made the important point that it can't be limited to churches, any place where people gather. So we're getting this preliminary warning that places of gathering and, you know, fellowship are likely to be the targets. How do the front line feel? If we're connecting it to the Ebola example, how do pastors feel right now, hearing about these threats? How do church members feel?
And Kwejo, even to expand the conversation, you know, in some countries, even Muslims, moderate Muslims, have been attacked.
Yes.
These groups have attacked moderate Muslims that they consider are not proper, they are not whatever. You know, so as we do this conversation, we should not just make it church, even though the research is saying that they want to attack church. But knowing what we know, even we must cover our brothers and sisters in Islam, because elsewhere they have equally been attacked. But back to the question you have raised. While we wait, and may want to use your platform to plead with, of course, at the end of the day, is the president who is the commander. But whoever must bring society together, Ghanaians together, to understand and respond to. I pray that somebody must be move faster. You know, there must be a public program, a meeting somewhere, bringing community leaders, church leaders, traditional leaders, for a national conversation. And let me use your platform to call for a national conversation on this security threat. And we should not keep waiting and waiting. Ebola, thank God, we didn't have it, but I think we waited for far too long. This time, let's initiate the process, and whoever, at the end of the day, to still go to the doorsteps of the commander, and we pray that the president will let us hear something quickly. But if it is the military, if it is the interior, it is national security, we are waiting. But the church leaders must accept. I believe in prayer. I'm a pastor. I pray. I have faith in God. I'm trusting God to keep us as he has done all these years. But pastors must also know that if we need fire extinguisher to just calm down, you don't keep praying and praying when the fire extinguisher is waiting somewhere. So there are things, you know, in time like this, we have what we call divine intervention and human action. This is how you respond to this. So you don't just pray. When you pray, you put your trust in God. That is divine intervention, trusting that God will do something. God will do something. But we are also being called to accept certain responsibilities of our action. You know, so there's need for human action. The church leaders must accept this threat that it can't happen, it cannot happen. We should not wish away things like this, because our friends in Sri Lanka are also Christians. You know, some of our friends in Nigeria, our friends in Burkina Faso, the priest who was saying the mass that was killed, also believe in God. You know, so we must learn from these experiences and put our house in order. At least our ushers must be trained on security tidbit, beyond just giving nice seats to people, welcoming people, make sure people feel at home in our churches. Our ushers, in fact, if you look at the tape, the Sri Lanka tape, the guy was in this, from the car park, with a bag, something at his bag. Initially, we didn't know what, you know, and he walked through, and he walked through, and he walked through, and I would have wished somebody tap his brother, you have this load. Can we assist you, put it somewhere, so at the end of the service, and whatever would have happened, would have given some kind of, you know, they allow him, and you watch the video and on, and strategically position himself. Our ushers must, whatever level they have in security, must be upgraded. CCTV camera must be common in churches today. Common. I know some of those is expensive, but let us look at the people we bring together, and some of the things we are obliged. You know, and if CCTV camera can even let somebody watch what is happening at the car park, we are in church. But somebody must be monitoring what is happening at the car park. What are the movements, even in the main auditorium? You know, so we must be security conscious. And church leaders, pastors, quickly must also be answering basic questions. If we don't have the technical know-how that we are waiting for experts to bring us together, basic things like getting CCTV people to come and fix CCTV camera at your car park, inside your church, your office, things like this must be common in all our church auditorium. Our ushers, somebody must quickly bring them together. That ushering is beyond finding comfortable seat for guests. You must also be able to interpret the movement, the mood, the body language of people.
Let's talk a bit more about what churches can do on their own while they await the faster movement of authorities. You gave an example when you were talking about Ebola of yourself, you know, having to go abroad to meet with those who have a bit more experience in the management of these situations and get some education on that for the benefit of, you know, your people back home. Now, I'm thinking about that in this instance, and it occurs to me that perhaps the peaceful country that has had the most church attacks is the United States. Now, they are adopting very interesting ways of dealing with this. They are getting armed people in their churches. They are training some of their church members, ushers, and so forth on how to use firearms so that they can be defenders of the church. It's becoming quite a popular option, especially in the southern parts of the U.S., in Texas and so forth. Of course, they love their guns anyway. So I'm wondering, I mean, how far should churches in Ghana consider going? I mean, should they think about getting licensed firearm bearers, you know, to protect them from very dangerous threats like what we're discussing?
Because maybe one day we'll get there, but as of now, I'm not sure we are there. I mean, if you look at the U.S. stories you have cited, they have gone through a lot. So maybe building up, that's why we may now need, maybe we are not, level 1. Let's get level 100. And if we go through and we get to a point and we have reached that level, but at the moment, I think we need a basic knowledge, which we don't have. I have been in churches, in fact, even in Kenya, church, that everybody, the security people will check, with this, quick, before you enter.
Yeah.
Kenya, not even in US. Everybody, I've witnessed that, you see. So maybe we can even start basic. My worry now is we think, oh, God loves, this thing that God loves Ghana. God loves us, but things that happen elsewhere do happen in this country as well. It's just by grace. So, and Paul in the Bible will say that because of grace, should we, if you like, be irresponsible, not doing what we ought to do. So, grace. But if you can fix CCTV camera, what are you waiting for? Knowing you put 500 people, 1,000 people in that room, that the car park is full of people's vehicle, that you should know what is happening. Let's start from there. And maybe, depending on how the future will unfold, if there's a need for us to add other things that other people have done elsewhere. In Kenya, when Shabab was attacking the church, I was in a Christian program, church program, that all of us were subjected to the things that put your mobile phone here, what they do at the airport, everybody entering into the church. And in fact, you look at, I say Nairobi, driving towards the airport, everybody, you are light, you go through such things. Years ago, it was not like that. So as we move on, depending on how the future will unfold, vehicles coming to our church premises, whether it's nice car or whatever, we must be interested. And this age and age that now anybody running V8 black color is free to go anywhere, even that the police cannot check them. They get even tow booths, even they drive through. You see, so if I have an armed person who intend to harm society, harm church, and even the police cannot stop this kind of people, we are at risk. The way people are driving, and so church leaders must take certain responsibility as far as the security of the people we rally around in our premises are concerned.
I want us to bring in security expert Adam Bona, and he joins us on the phone to discuss what measures churches and other places of gathering ought to be considering at this point. Mr. Bona, very good to speak to you. Good morning to you. Right, now, Mr. Bona, let's start from the simple premise that this has never happened before in Ghana. Like how we all seem to have been taken aback by the crime of kidnapping that was never common here. We are likely to be taken aback in terms of law enforcement when it comes to this. So what are some of the very quick and simple things that authorities should be considering right now to make us all safer, in spite of the fact that we don't even know what this could look like?
Well, yes, thank you very much. First of all, what we need to do, I will start from the point of view of the states, in terms of the executive, the police, the military, and those who are in charge, who we pay to take care of our security and safety. First of all, they need to have, they have to be able to identify all religious buildings in this country. That's the first thing to do, because in other places, you just cannot cite a church or a religious building anywhere. They are highly regulated, but over here, church buildings, you would go to a church, you will see a church by in the community, a wooden structured church, and sometimes 200, 300, 400 people. Therefore, my suspicion is that we might be, proposing solutions to the big churches, the big concrete churches, and then leave the other ones. And so let's start by identifying these churches, knowing who they are. Then we are able to know who are their, members, who are members of this church. Once we are able to do that, we are then able to advise that put in measures. I think whilst you put me through, they put me through to join your conversation. I did hear you talk about the case of the U.S. The U.S. has its own challenges, you know, where these people usually will not sneak in. Usually they come in spraying everybody with bullets.
Yeah.
But in the case of Africa, I mean, these are people who probably would attend your church for a day or two, and then before you see, they take everybody hostage and kill people. And so I would propose we put in the churches should begin to have a conversation with the security authorities. If it's national security or the Ministry of the Interior, the police, they do that. Put in measures such as scanning everybody. You know, if anybody is carrying anything metallic, anything that looks like that is probably has gunpowder, there are scanners, weapon scanners and metal scanners that would pick these things, would tell you what this person is carrying. And I did hear the other person on the other side talk about, you know, the type of either the full body scanners or the bag scanners that will scan the liquids and all that. These are things that probably the bigger churches would be able to do. But for the handheld detectors, they will have various types. And so I would propose that some of these measures be put in place. But it is also very important to have the church begin to roll out, educational programs to be able to educate their congregants, educate those who fellowship with them with regards to being able to identify someone who looks suspicious. And there again, Mr. Yankson, I've been one of the persons who have advocated for us to have anti-terrorism decks. Fortunately, we had one during John Mahama's regime, but it never came with a telephone number. All over the world, there is a number you call to usually announce some of these things or inform them, but we don't have one. As we speak, Burkina Faso is under attack. It started from Benin. People were killed, and then it's in Burkina Faso now, and the situation is fluid. I was expecting that by now the state would have either told us that our state of alertness is either a yellow or a red. Burkina Faso is just around the corner. And so, by and large, the state has a responsibility to protect us, while the church has a responsibility to make sure that their congregants are able to detect. But when they detect, who do they speak to? So for me, these are some of the things that the churches, should begin to do, and simple things such as organizing their sitting positions. When I say reorganizing them, when you go into most of these churches, there are benches or chairs people sit in. And usually those who come early will sit in front in that order. But, I mean, seeing what is going on, there has to be a structured way where people who are trained to detect suspicious-looking people who are joining them, people who first-time visitors to your church, must clearly be identified and profiled properly, so that once these people who have been trained are properly positioned in various aisles or various sitting arrangements, they are able to, detect. And whilst everybody has closed his eyes or her eyes in the church, these people are made to be aware that you are supposed to be taking care of our interests. So don't close your eyes when we say bow down your head, so that if anybody is about pulling a weapon, when eyes are closed, they are able to do a takedown. So these are some of the things that, if you ask me, on top of that, I believe that it is also important for the churches to probably get people who would help them in terms of designing a security arrangement that will enhance the safety of their churches, their congregants.
Okay, Mr. Bonner, very interesting suggestions there. And something you said really struck me. You talked about how we haven't yet heard an alert, whether it's an amber alert or a red alert from the government of Ghana in light of this threat in our neighboring country. But another thing that I'm not aware of, and perhaps with your security expertise you might be able to advise us, does Ghana have a sort of response plan for terror attacks? In the United States and in other countries that have experienced terror attacks, they've developed a plan. So in essence, if something happens, they have a playbook that they follow. So this team goes there first, they're the first respondents, then this team will cordon off the area, then this other team will bring in the medical support, and then they open up this avenue for entrance into the zone and this avenue for exit into the zone. They control traffic this way. The people who are there are sheltered in this place and that place, So there is a detailed plan for every single sector of the city, and there is one for every city. Does Ghana have anything like that?
Well, these are national security matters, but as far as I'm concerned, I would say we nearly put in something like that. But as we speak today, I don't know whether they were able to complete it, because then if a button is pushed, one is expecting that, for instance, if it has to do with bombs or explosives, it is only the military who have the bomb disposal squad, people who have been trained to dispose, to make sure bombs are properly disposed of in a manner that would not be injurious to anybody. But as we speak, as far as I'm concerned, like I said, these are national security matters. For all you know, there are a lot of people who listen to your network and they are listening to us.
But if there is such a plan, surely, I mean, the public would be a stakeholder. There would be a need for drills and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So they wouldn't want to keep it a secret, would they?
Well, some of us have spoken about these things at great length. We've raised them severally in various events, but we probably are waiting, just like this kidnapping. The kidnappers are almost overrunning us. We are waiting for what is happening in Burkina, because as we speak, Mr. Youngson, if anything, if I see someone suspicious, do I call 191 or I call the 18555, which is the normal petty stealing emergency line to the police? If I want to report that I've seen some people carrying assault rifles and they are about entering a church, do I just call the police emergency where everybody else calls to say some people broke into my home? No, we should have had the proper arrangement, detailed arrangement. But there again, Senator Kojo, I have to be honest with you. You know what? ECOWAS has a role to play. These are areas that I have things that are raised. What is ECOWAS doing? Because then this issue goes beyond just Ghana. It is, transnational. It is crisscrossing the borders. And so ECOWAS by now should have also had a role to play. But none of it. The state is failing in that manner. The continental group heads are also failing. And so where do we go? I think we are caught in a particular web that if we are not very careful, we get overrun. And then we begin to put in committees here and there. This is what we have to do. And so that's where we are.
Wow. Well, Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong, this is a rather stark picture that our security analyst is painting. But if this is the reality, then the danger is much worse than we thought. Not only are we quite naked to the possibility of an attack, but if there is an attack, our response might not save lives. It might not save as many lives as it could if we were better prepared. I mean, how does that make you feel as a church leader, an identified at-risk group in this particular scenario?
I like how Mr. Bona made a presentation that this is national security things. I don't know. And therefore, I don't know who is watching us, but somebody who knows must make an appearance. No. We need to relax the atmosphere, take the people out of, if you like, unnecessary anxiety and panic, and give public confidence based on substance. It should not be something that we do only to come back one day to say, we wanted to give you hope. But it must be a reality, something that is, that we have a plan, it's there. So quickly, somebody must continue where Mr. Bona left off, that, what you asked, that do we have a plan? The example, the U.S. example, it is there, And he asked, do we continue calling 911 like somebody has picked my mobile phone, 911? Or if I go to church and at my car park, I'm seeing certain unusual something. This time it's not 911, but talk to this person. At the moment, everybody calls the media houses. Now, public confidence in such things is in the media houses, even more than calling 911 and all that. So somebody must come into this conversation, and I will still call for a national conversation on this security threat. It should not just be, oh, they say church, so church people is your business. I don't think so. I don't think, in fact, even in our churches, we have members of parliament in our churches. The president of our land also go to church. You know, Speaker of Parliament, the Attorney General, the Speaker of so many people. Yeah. So it's not, oh, let's leave church people to handle this matter. It doesn't, it's national issue. Ghanaians are in our churches. And for me, even though they are talking about church, knowing what has happened elsewhere, I will even stretch the security issue even to Muslims in this country, because I have seen instances in Nigeria and elsewhere that moderate Muslims have equally been attacked. So our leaders must help us roll a national conversation. We need a national conversation on this security threat. It should not just be left to the churches. They say they want to attack you. What are you going to do? I am a Ghanaian. I have national leaders. They must answer that question. But in the process, I make myself available for education, for information, and also to do the bit that I'm supposed to do as a Ghanaian. But nobody should push this threat into the hands of the churches that church people, this is your issue. Right. It's not our issue. It's a national issue.
Now, Mr. Bonner, just before you leave us, there's something I wanted to ask you, and I'm minded by what we heard from the Chinese ambassador when he was talking about Aisha Huan and Galamsey in Ghana. And he made this very interesting point that the Chinese cannot fly into Ghana of their own volition. They don't give themselves visas. And when they turn up here, they don't know where the gold is. Somebody here helps them to do the wrong thing. Now, with terrorism, it won't be very different. These people cannot just jump in a bus and drive over the border into Ghana without anybody letting them in. And when they get here, they don't know where the churches are. In fact, I don't know where most churches are. And I live here. So they are definitely going to have to interact with Ghanaians at some level in order to succeed at any of these, in carrying out any of these threats. So what's the security implication there? What should Ghanaians start looking out for in order to be a bit safer?
I think, you see, I didn't know you had a reverend in your studio.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bonner.
The emergency line is not 911, it's
191.
191.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So kindly have that on your speed dial. You might need it.
Yeah.
But to what you said, the onus is on the states to protect us. The onus is first of all on the states. It is 3 times. The onus is on the states because we pay taxes to the states to protect us. And so you realize that recently I monitored a video emanating from some villages around the north or something, where some expatriates, some expatriates with long beard, who were described, I'm sure most people would have seen that, who were probably talking about bad water in a particular community, and they had gathered the community and they were talking to them. I flagged this, I sent it to whoever the powers that be, and I said, this is how the indoctrination starts. They come in usually as if they are coming to provide needed social services, i.e. water and some form of education. Before you realize, they behave as if they are here to help you. They brainwash our own people, and they will take arms against their own people. And so as far as I'm concerned, we need a national security policy document that would identify, all of these threats, including the church, and just like the Reverend said, and the mosques, because mosques have also come under attack, and probably all religious buildings in this country. And so as far as I'm concerned, yes, Ghanaians, we are complicit, the indigents, we are complicit in sometimes inviting these people into our fold. But Big Brother up there, or those we elected, are supposed to lead us. We can lead them. They can only tell us that don't do this, do this. When you suspect this, this is what you must do. By way of educating us and by way of letting us identify possible targets and possible suspicious people, and and create scenarios for us. But as we speak, my brother Kojo, it's difficult to say this issue in Benin and Burkina is still evolving. I'm having a statement from any of our leaders telling us that we find ourselves in trying times. And so Ghanaians, you've got to be alert. When someone comes to you saying, let's do this or do that, you've got to be aware of it. First of all, you are aware of the where they mentioned that they are going to be using the Galamsey areas. And I'll tell you why they will use the Galamsey area. Anyone who has visited some of these Galamsey areas will tell you they are deep in the forest. Where human beings, sometimes you will never believe people are there. They come into town as at when they want. And so when these people come in, those areas will be safe haven. And so what are we doing in educating our own indigents? That when you see people of this people who look like this, or people who you think are likely to, are behaving in a manner that will be detrimental or is not in consonance with the way we do our things, call this number. I haven't heard anything. And so, for all you know, I don't want to push any panic button, but have some of them already slipped in? I will not know. But as far as I'm concerned, our security agencies, i.e. the national security, it is their job to, pick intelligence. They aren't doing that, and they aren't educating us. They aren't telling us what we have to do. And so, this is where we are. The conversation will continue, and just like the Reverend did say, if you will leave this in the hands of the religious bodies or the churches, they can't do much. What can a church do to protect? What can a church do? If we are in America, over there people can have armed, officers with, semi-automatic weapons. Over here, we are not allowed. People even get frightened when people carry weapons around. And so someone would have to lead. Someone should have called the Christian Council. Someone should have called religious bodies by now, saying this is what we must do. That hasn't been done. And for me, it worries me.
Mr. Bona, I want to thank you for your time with us. Always elucidating. Thank you very much. But you know what? With information sometimes comes a little bit of concern. Not panic, definitely not panic, because we have time to resolve some of these issues, but concern. I'm just realizing after hearing Mr. Bona that we interviewed right here the Director General of Operations for the Greater Accra Regional Police Command. I believe it's ACP Kwesi Ofori. Okay. And he said, he was talking about kidnapping, the rise of kidnapping cases. And he said that the authorities in Ghana have no information about foreigners. That was his statement. They are in, they've come through airports, legally, through airports, borders, and so forth. They've all come in. We have no information about where they are, what they're doing here, whether they've left or not. We have zero data on that. Now, when Mr. Bona said, are they already here? My first question was, how can we check? And then I remembered this. We can't check. I wonder, it's not fair to put this question to you. It's not your responsibility. But I wonder how it makes you feel, and whether you feel powerless or whether you feel like you and your colleagues in the Christian Council and so forth and churches across the country, whether there's anything you can do to be safer.
I know, but I also know some of the entry points. For instance, if you are going through Kotoka, I don't know what they do with all these biometric checks, your eyes. But now elsewhere, if they pick your biometric, every detail about you. So right from the airport. But I must admit that there are other entry points in Brahafo and Volta region in the north that people just walk in and out, so there, yes, you may not know who has entered, who has left, because I don't see those biometric things. For some of the borders, the lines pass through even a town. So, you can put something on fire and go to the other side and buy something and come in, and nobody will ask you who has Yeah. So, but I will still say that I don't have enough information about this. This is the domain of Mr. Bona and the others. But whoever is listening to us must give response. We need some security education at the moment. There must be national conversation. There must be workshops going on. And I will still say that nobody should push this to the domain of the church. It's your business. It's the business of the national, those who are managing our security. Any Ghanaian who feel threatened or is threatened, by anybody, must have the support of the state. Whether church, mosques, media person, the state must protect any Ghanaian who feel threatened, even if it's a seemingly thing. There must be assurance that, relax, go to bed, we are in charge. So for us to hear this, and we have evidence in Burkina Faso, and it's like business as usual. I'm not comfortable. Not so much that whether we know who is here and who has left, but ever since this Burkina Faso, Sri Lanka, Nigeria thing has always been there, and there's no public education, there's no fine. Sometimes thank God for some of the media houses, what we enjoy and multimedia you have allowed us to do. But I expect whoever has that information, whoever must relax our nerves to roll a program and call everybody, church leaders, and I will always say that even Muslim leaders, knowing what Al-Shabaab and others have done, Boko Haram has done in Nigeria, all of us, we are Ghanaians, But you asked a question earlier on to Mr. Bona, the lead that sometimes Ghanaian give. There's something we have done in this country over the years, and now I will plead that we must deepen it. We have healthy interfaith harmony between Christians and Muslims over the years. And I pray and hope this is the time Christian and Muslim leaders must come together, that we are first and foremost Ghanaians. We will not allow anybody to come and either use Christianity to attack Islam or use Islam to, we will not. So we are first and foremost Ghanaians. We are Christians, we are Muslims, we are Hindus, but first and foremost we are Ghanaians. And we love ourselves. That sense of nationalism must be activated now. That whether you are a Muslim, whatever, a Christian, a Catholic, a Presbyterian, a Pentecostal, charismatic, whether I don't believe in what you believe, as long as you are Ghanaian, we will hold our hands and stand together. That we will not betray ourselves.
Is that a worry that you have? That, for example, because this particular group that is a threat is an Islamic jihadist group, is that a concern you have, that perhaps some nefarious Muslims might actually shelter, accommodate, and assist them to conduct an attack in Ghana?
I would have wished we had a Muslim friend on this platform. You see, it's the same. If you are an outsider, you think all Christians are the same. In the same, if you are outside, I think all Muslims. But there are sects, there are differences, and that you can get Muslims who may not want to pray with other Muslims in the same mosque. You have that differences, but I would have wished we had a Muslim to do this this conversation. So it's possible to get a Muslim who may not be happy with other Muslim friends and may do what you call for earlier on the Chinese, that there is Ghanaians that are giving the lead, But that is why I'm saying at this moment, even if you are a Muslim, even if you are a Christian, and you have differences with anybody, for the sake of our identity as Ghanaians, let's protect one another. And we should. And that is why sometimes those of us also who are commenting, if you are Christian, and I have had instances that some Christian pastors are preaching, outdoor, what they call crusade, and put, say, a religious material, and, and stamp on it. If you don't believe it, you don't believe it, but give me respect. If you're a Muslim, you don't believe in Christianity, that is it, but give them respect. If you are Christian, you don't believe in Islam, but give them respect. So that we also don't create unnecessary platform that somebody will want to use. That look at what they are doing at Muslims, and then let's go and support them. Or look at what they are doing against Christians, let's go and support them. So this is the time that interfaith consciousness must be strengthened. And we must all respect people for who they are.
Reverend, before you go, I mean, I would not be forgiven if I had somebody like you who has such a voice on our show and didn't get you to comment on a few of the other, in some ways related, national issues. You know, this matter of insecurity. We've already mentioned the kidnapping. Here at JoyNews, we have a campaign that we've been pushing, Bring Back Our Tardy Girls, and every single story that has something to do with kidnapping, either of them or any other victims, we pay close attention to it, we give it prominence, and we seek solutions. We were all a bit alarmed yesterday when we heard that the CID, the Director General of the CID had suddenly walked back some comments that she made earlier about knowing where the girls are. Now she says they're still searching for them, and she only said that to give hope to the family members. I mean, you have experience giving hope.
Yeah.
Is this how it's done?
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how much time we have, but I'm also interested in national identification.
Oh yes, we will touch on that. We have some time. We'll touch on that.
I'm a parent. I have children, grown-up children. If any of them had gone out more than a month and I can't locate them, and I hear, whatever platform, whatever, that I know where your daughter, your son is. What I wouldn't want to hear for that person to come back that, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't understand me. Sometimes elsewhere people apologize easily. One of the things we don't do well in this country is apologizing. You know, we must know that people are hurt. So it's not as simple as, oh, you didn't understand me. She spoke English language. That we know where the girls, as I speak to you now, we know where the girls are. That is English language. It's not Greek. So coming back to say that you didn't understand me, by now, either the IGP or somebody should have given apology to some people, some Ghanaians, that sorry, we didn't mean this. So it should not be business as usual. Oh, you did not understand me, it's your fault. People are deeply hurt. I have children, and if this story, and I take the children as my own, please, thank God. In fact, this issue has been picked by the media, even more than by the security agencies, the way some of you, and consistently, and whatever hope somebody wants to give to us must be sustained. It's not we are up and down, oh, we know them, oh, we are sorry, we don't know where that kind of thing shouldn't be. And by now, I seriously want some even serious apology to be given to Ghanaians and the particular families. But our leaders must be more serious with us.
Now, let's talk about national identification so that if we have time left over, then we touch on other things. And, I know that it's something that you're very passionate about.
Yes.
You feel the church has a role to play here?
We do. We do. You see, this national identification is Act 707, parts how many years? 2006, thereabout. And we have not been able to do it. And now the NIA say we are going to the communities with the registration, mass registration. Now, when you bring anything to the community, the churches, like other religious, but we have facilities. If you move this registration from your office to the community, we have church facilities, we have conference, or we have tables, we have chairs, we have canopies. So I will want to plead. Now they've started with Greater Accra, they'll be moving into the regions. But I pray and hope that churches will offer their facilities quickly. In fact, some have done it. Mount Olivet Methodist Church in Dansuma, some Presbyterian churches are doing, they've invited them. Some have even given them accommodation in their premises. Churches must get involved in this. We need to make sure, if I consider it as a collective responsibility, we need credible identity, national identity that is the integrity can be guaranteed. And in times like this, knowing who we are, that sometimes we roll such nice programs, and there's certain individuals who want to have undue advantage. At the moment, if we don't take care, our good friends, the politicians, will want to make it an electoral thing. The card is all-purpose thing. I have my card. It's all-purpose. It's for driver's licenses. It is for banking information. It is for crime prevention. It is for even admission. When you are looking for admission, you need this. You know.
Wow, also for looking good here.
Yeah, but the card is ECOWAS card.
Oh, this
I'm
is
looking
your
for
ECOWAS
Professor
card.
Atefa. This is what they've given to me, and that's what they call Ghana card. But on top is ECOWAS
identity card.
We need this card for so many things. You know, insurance, even insurance, you need it. But the moment they reduce it to electoral thing, that is where you have instances that some political parties will want to have advantage. I want to register my people. I don't want to register your people. Now, you need this to collect tax, to know who is a Ghanaian, where Ghanaians are. If you do it in such a way that you cut off, you be in power, but how do you identify your people you call Ghanaian to collect taxes? So we must do this exercise with high level of integrity. And I pray and hope churches must get involved. We must get involved as in offering our facilities. We won't take over the job of those who have been trained to do it. We can offer water. I pray and hope that church people in the communities will buy basic things like water. You know, when people join the queue and they are in the sun, they, you know, little thing then. So if we can find a way of even contributing in terms of relaxing the atmosphere. But those, the agents, the NIA people, for once, must fear God and love Ghana. You know, what do you do with sister cities? A matter like, you know, national identity. So if even somebody has given you X amount of money, let us do something. You see, I was in South Africa recently. I had dollars. And I went to a shop to buy something. And they said, sorry, we won't give you change in dollars. We'll give you change in rand. I said, no, what do I do? I'm in the airport. I'm on my way out. Say, we are sorry. I went to Forest Bureau in the airport. Say, sorry, we don't do it. We are not supposed to do that. Elsewhere in Ghana, it would have been done. In fact, I might not have gone to even Forest Bureau. In front of the airport, they would have done it. Let us love ourselves as Ghanaians. And those who have roles to play must, for once, love the nation called Ghana and be sincere and be credible and protect the integrity so that when we have it, we can all be proud of it. We have so many things that we don't trust. We do so many things, and most of it is our own politicians. And that's why they should distance themselves from this exercise. Politicians must distance, because today you are not in power, tomorrow you may be in power. Today you are in power, tomorrow you may not be in power. But this must go beyond any regime. So it must be done, and must be done with high sense of integrity and credibility. I pray and hope that by the time we finish this exercise, we'll be proud of ourselves, that at least for once we trust this. Our passport, foreigners are holding them. National health insurance, everything. Now we have another opportunity. We shouldn't fail ourselves as a people.
Now, do you feel that the National Identification Authority is properly equipped to deal with some of the problems that have emerged? I mean, we've heard about people setting up the machines in their kitchens and, you know, registering people on the machine. And I mean, to the credit of the boss of the NIA, he wants to assure Ghanaians that, look, there have been 5 incidents, we are aware of them, we've dealt with them. But these incidents, most of them would not have been identified if not by chance. Yeah. So how do we know whether there haven't been far more than these 5? And it's just that it's the 5 we know of. Are you confident that that integrity that the system needs still exists? Is it not too late?
No, because I have also been listening to Professor Atefa, and he sounds very assuring. But I must say, I'm not excited. I've been going around. The long queues and what people, you know, are going through. If they are well equipped, you know, if there's something, because now they are doing a thing region by region, and now it's Greater Accra, and the way people are queuing, if this is what we are going to have moving into the regions, then we may have problem, you know. So if they can lessen that the number of hours people are queuing for this, it's very frustrating. But now we are in one region. If they will be able to study all this report coming out and, you know, respond to them, I pray and hope moving from Greater Accra, the story may be different.
Right.
But having these things in people's room and staff collecting money, they must know, even though it's not enough for us to erode the credibility of the exercise, but it's a concern. I pray and hope that whoever must respond to some of these initial challenges will respond very fast, put mechanism in place, but please, they must reduce the time people are spending in acquiring this. These days, people do things online, university admission online, so there are things we can do online. But if we must still queue for somebody to ask, what's your name? How old are you? Gender? Fine. But please, somebody must respond to the hours people are spending in the queue. It's not comfortable.
Right. Now, corruption is something that the church has had opportunity to talk about on many occasions in the past. It's a big, big issue. Ghana is seeking to fight it any way we can. One of the biggest weapons that this government has wielded against it is the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And in recent days, there have been various assessments of the work that they've done. Here at JoyNews, we had some information about some of the cases they're interested in. But yesterday, Corruption Watch held a big event where they assessed the work of the office, and they highlighted some of the progress that has been made, but also talked about areas in which there is a need for improvement, some overlapping of work and so forth. Somebody made a very interesting call on the office to make sure that all officers have declared their assets.
Yeah.
I wonder, what is your assessment of...
Yeah, I listened to the conversation yesterday. And, Kwejo, let me tell you a story. We were picked by the Archbishop of Canterbury, people from few countries all over the world to visit mine sites. Okay. So we were here, we were in South Africa, then we're in Peru. Now in Peru, they have resource centers in the communities. And we went there. Any contract that any mining company has signed with government, and every detail from production, whatever, you pull a file in the community and you could get anything. In fact, we were giving anything, everything. And so at the end of the field work, they gathered us in London. And I asked some of them who also have mining companies in Ghana that you do this in Peru, but you don't do this in Ghana. He said, in Peru, that is what the law requires. Your country is not the same. So I do what they want me to do. Then I do what? Transparency is the key. And while waiting for the office of the
Special Prosecutor,
I think we do a lot of things in secrecy in this country. And it's across board. And this is the time why waiting for, because when Mr. Martin Amidu was appointed, the impression was now we have found the antidote to corruption. Now he's going to do everything. 1 year along, and now you realize you have been slow. Sometimes I get people in government bashing at him and all that. But I feel moving forward, hearing what I heard yesterday and the challenges, and we must deepen this area of our life transparent. People must do things, because at the way you can, all manner of things are happening. And now you media people who are even helping us unearthing some of these things are under attack. So somebody is collecting something and a media person is able to bring it to light. Not everything will go to Ms. Amidu. And then now your life is threatened. You see, so why we want to, yesterday, some of the things I have said, when will we have clear transparency in our public service in this country? And how do we protect those who are giving us the alarm, those who are watching some of these things? Now media people are being attacked left and right, and maybe it leads to even the closure of some media houses. So that I feel that the timing is not the best. Even our media rating is going down. This is not the time. Yes, even if they have...
I'm thinking about Radio Gold and XYZ.
Yes, even if if they have bills to pay, somebody must collect the money. But to me, the timing of shutting down some of these things, knowing some of the things some of our media people are going through, their work are all supposed to support what Mr. Amidu is doing. Some of the things, the media people who bring them out, even before they are referred. But now, the threat is also not comfortable. So I want to see more transparency in the system. I don't see it.
More transparency. I think that's a perfect point to wrap up our conversation. Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong, it's such an honor to have you on the show. I'm so pleased you could make it.